Did Trump decide to lift Iranian oil-related sanctions on China? Xi Jinping is somehow even more furious with Taiwan, and the UK just made a huge mistake on the Chinese embassy. Then more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. The United Kingdom is about to make a huge mistake. And I'm not just saying that as an American because 4th of July is coming up and we always treat the British with an FAFO mindset this time of year. No, I'm saying it because a Chinese mega embassy is set to be approved within weeks. The mega embassy would be located at Royal Mint Court, near the Tower of London, the UK's financial hub in the City of London, and critical communication cables, which has raised concerns by British intelligence about hacking, espionage, or sabotage, all of which the CCP has, of course, promised not to do. The property was sold to the PRC by the George Soros-affiliated Delancey Estates in 2018, after they bought it from the government in 2014. The Labour government's housing secretary is expected to wave through the approval of the new controversial building within weeks, with a formal rubber stamping before September, although that might trigger a judicial review process. This decision comes after Xi Jinping himself lobbied the UK government for the building to be approved. I'm sure it weighed heavily on their minds, specifically weighing lots and lots of pounds. The new embassy is controversial for several reasons, the most obvious being, well, have you been paying attention to what happens with these embassies and consulates across the globe? If not, how many times have I told you to like, share, and subscribe? In Canada, the Chinese consulate allegedly ran election interference campaigns in 2019 and 2021. In New York City, the consulate runs influence campaigns in the Big Apple and Boston. And there are calls for sanctions as a Philippine probe accused the Chinese embassy in Manila of an influence campaign. They're more obsessed with influencing than a 22-year-old on social media who doesn't realize once their looks fade, it's all going to be over for them since they never developed a personality. Due to incidents such as these and China's many well-documented human rights abuses, there have been protests in London and elsewhere in the UK against approving this mega embassy project. And many lawmakers have raised concerns or objections to doing so, including the Conservative Party leader in Britain and President Trump. So this is gearing up to be a tough fight that will take some time to resolve. A spokesman with the Royal Mint Court Residents Association, which represents people who live and work in properties next to the proposed embassy, said, "This has been a David versus Goliath battle since the beginning, and we are not giving up now. Most of us fully expected this outcome, and we are now crowdfunding a legal challenge." It truly is a David versus Goliath battle, only if Goliath was on the same team as David and David was trying to prevent Goliath from doing something gigantically stupid. Some analysts have grown concerned that Trump might be granting an Iranian oil option to China. The concern comes from a post Trump made on social media, because of course it does, where he wrote, "China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully, they will be purchasing plenty from the US also. It was my great honor to make this happen." So what's going on here? Is Trump doing a quid pro quo with China after the US called on China to prevent Iran from closing the Strait of Hormuz? And they did so? Most likely not. The CCP responded to the post by saying it will take legitimate measures to safeguard its energy security based on its own national interests. And since oil from Iran is a big part of China's energy security, the CCP probably didn't do or say anything as a favor to Trump. Trump's statement could have just been a snarky acknowledgement that the CCP has found some ways to skirt sanctions and still get Iran's oil, such as this new railway corridor that runs back and forth between Iran and China, reaching Iran in just 15 days, far quicker than the 40-day sea route and free from US naval interference. Trump is a master troll, after all. Even people on Blue Sky are admitting he's hilarious. Cryatola is an all-timer nickname. One senior White House official said that Trump's statement merely acknowledged that oil from the Strait of Hormuz won't be disrupted and is not a signal of sanctions relief, or a signal of relief for future equally brutal nicknames for China. Leave your comments below about what nickname Trump should use for Xi. And after the break, China's tensions with Taiwan are reaching a breaking point. Welcome back. Taiwanese President William Lai is urging unity in protecting Taiwan from the CCP threat. At an important speech earlier this week, President Lai called for solidarity among many of the island's different factions and urged different parties to find common ground in challenging the CCP. At least while their ground is still common, before China launches an invasion and tries to snatch it. Lai reiterated that the CCP's stance on Taiwan is based on expansionism, and stressed that it is up to the Taiwanese people to determine their identity and future. This was just one of a series of 10 speeches aimed at rallying support for Taiwanese security. And obviously, the CCP was not pleased. Meanwhile, China and Taiwan are also clashing over history, with China saying it can't invade what is already its own territory. So, by China's logic, if they try to invade Taiwan and get pushed back, would that just be China screwing itself? A 26-day Chinese dual Pacific carrier deployment has just wrapped up. This truly was a historic drill, with a huge amount of warships going farther than ever, and the Liaoning aircraft carrier going the farthest it ever has. The Shandong aircraft carrier was also present in the deployment. Shocker, the ships also infringed on Japan's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, which prompted the Japanese to send their ships to shadow the PLAN. And considering how often China enters other nations' space, I can't tell if they're growing more bold or just the crappiest navigators on the planet. This isn't just about intimidating Taiwan or other countries in the region. It's about demonstrating how capable China's military has become, and that it still wants to become a Bluewater Navy capable of projecting power far off of its shores. So the CCP is putting Japan, Australia, and the US, along with other strong rivals, on notice. And I guess that notice is, hey, we're still pricks, but now we can be pricks at an even greater distance. But not everyone is standing idly by. The UK sent the HMS Bay, an offshore patrol vessel, to transit through the Taiwan Strait. This is the first time in 4 years that Britain has conducted such a transit through the area. A statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Taiwan said, "Through this concrete action, the United Kingdom further defended freedom of navigation in the Taiwan Strait and demonstrated its firm position that the strait constitutes international waters." Now, if they would just cancel that mega embassy, the UK would have a solid win on their side. And me saying that as an American, this close to the 4th of July, is already a pretty big win. But China has even more kung pao beef with Taiwan. It's vowing forceful measures after Taiwan's Huawei export curb. Last week, Taiwan joined Washington's years-long campaign to hamper the technological rise of the Chinese Communist Party. The island started by adding 2 companies to its entity list, which stops Taiwanese firms from doing business with them without a license. The companies in question: AI and chip-making champions Huawei and Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation. This is the first time ever that major Chinese businesses have been placed on Taiwan's entity list. Apparently, years of spying, shady business practices, and threatening military drills make people think, yeah, I'd rather not do business with you. I'm sure the US is pleased, although China, of course, has called the move despicable. I don't know why, though. By their logic, Taiwan is China, so this is just China putting sanctions on itself. Quit criticizing yourself. A spokeswoman with China's Taiwan Affairs Office on Wednesday said that we will take forceful measures to resolutely safeguard the normal order of cross-strait economic and trade exchange. While she didn't elaborate any further on what that meant, she did suggest that the CCP would push forward with its efforts anyways, and that such a move will only harm Taiwan's competitiveness. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense given Taiwan's recent semiconductor investments in the US. Whatever the case, the CCP will just use this as an excuse to continue its regional aggression. And the more they do, the more influence they'll lose. And that'll be sad because, like a 50-year-old former social media influencer, they never developed a personality. China Uncensored is only possible with your support. We have a premium website with exclusive content over at ChinaUncensored.tv. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.